We massively underestimate generosity, and at the same time, we massively overestimate rejection. Most of the things we want in life don't stay out of reach because they're impossible. They stay out of reach because we never ask for them. We decide the answer before the question is even formed. We convince ourselves that the door is closed without ever knocking. And then we tell ourselves a story about why it wouldn't have worked anyway. Welcome to the Lead Well channel, where we explore the inner world behind leadership, well-being, and the realities of building a life that doesn't break you. There's a quiet fear that sits underneath so many of our decisions. The fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, the fear of being seen as needy, weak, entitled, or foolish. And if you strip it right back, most of the time that fear is just ego in disguise. We like to think ego is arrogance, someone loud, someone full of themselves, but ego is just as often the thing that stops us asking for help. The thing that tells us that we should already have it all figured out. The thing that says needing something makes us less than. So instead of asking, we stay silent. Instead of reaching out, we carry it alone. Instead of opening a door, we walk past it and pretend we never wanted to go in anyway. The people who get what they want in life are not always smarter. They're not always luckier. They're not always more deserving. Very often, they're just asking more often, more clearly and more consistently than anyone else. Luck is not random in the way that we like to believe it is. Yes, chance exists, timing exists, but luck can be encouraged. It shows up more often when you put yourself in places where receiving it is possible. And asking is one of the clearest ways of doing that. So many doors stay closed because we're too afraid to knock. We convince ourselves the answer will be no. We play out the rejection in our head, we imagine the awkwardness, the judgment, the embarrassment, and we decide it's safer not to try. But the truth is, if you never ask, the answer will always be no anyway. You miss every opportunity you don't ask for, not because the world is cruel, but because it can't respond to silence. Asking doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave, because asking requires vulnerability. It requires you to admit that you want something, that you need something, that you can't do everything alone. And that is uncomfortable for a lot of us, especially those of us who pride ourselves on independence, on resilience, on being capable. We wear self-sufficiency like an armor, but armor gets heavy when you wear it all the time. Omar Eltakrori often refers to a line in the Bible which has stuck with me for years. You have not because you ask not. Simple, direct, uncomfortable. You can't receive what you never allow yourself to ask for. Jim Rohn puts it another way. He says asking more often is like swapping a spoon for a bucket when visiting the ocean. There's an infinite amount of resource, support, knowledge, and opportunity out there, but if you only ever dip a spoon in, you'll convince yourself that it's scarce. Asking is how you change the tool that you're using. Now, this is the part that people struggle with, because asking doesn't guarantee a yes. There's nothing more deflating than asking and being told no, especially when it comes from someone that you expected a yes from. That hurts, that stings, that can reinforce every fear you already carry about not being enough or asking for too much. But that pain shouldn't stop you. A no is not a verdict on your worth. It's information, it's timing, it's capacity, it's circumstance. Most of the time, it has nothing to do with you at all. I learned this very clearly during the house renovation my wife and I have been doing. We were desperately trying to get the place ready so that we could move out of the tiny flat that we were staying in. Everything felt overwhelming. Time, money, energy, all stretched thin. So I did something that was really uncomfortable for me. I asked for help. I reached out to friends and I asked for help in any way possible, anything. An hour here, a couple of hours there, help moving things from storage, help with the heavier jobs, just any kind of support. And yes, we were let down by a few people. Some people couldn't make it, some didn't reply, some said they'd help but then didn't follow through with it. And that hurt. I won't pretend that it didn't. But what surprised me was the people who did show up. People who leapt at the chance, people who rearranged their schedules. One friend who owns a construction business even sent 2 of his employees for an entire day without charging me, just to help get ahead of the work. Without those people, everything would have been delayed. We would have spent more money, we would have been more exhausted, more burnt out, and more overwhelmed. None of that help would have arrived if I hadn't have asked. And the same is true in business. I've lost count of the things that have happened because I was willing to drop my ego and ask. Help on shift, financial support, advice, guidance, introductions, opportunities. Not every ask was met with a yes, but enough were. Enough to change outcomes, enough to move things forward. And here is the part we rarely talk about. Most people actually want to help. It gives them meaning. It makes them feel useful. and it strengthens their connection. But they can't help you with what they don't know that you need. We live in a culture that celebrates independence to the point of isolation, where asking is framed as weakness, where struggling quietly is somehow noble. But there's nothing noble about unnecessary suffering. Fear of judgment is just fear of losing control over how that we're perceived. That's ego. Fear of rejection is fear of confirmation of stories that we believe about ourselves. But those fears aren't the truth. They're protection mechanisms. And like most protection mechanisms, they overreact. We imagine rejection far more often than it actually happens. We replay the worst case scenario until it feels inevitable. And then we stay still. But staying still is a decision too, and it has its own consequences. If you never ask, you never receive. Not because you don't deserve it, but because you never opened the door. Asking doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees possibility. And possibility is everything. There's also something deeply human about being asked, about being trusted, about being invited into someone else's struggle. It creates a connection, it builds community, it reminds us that we're not alone. When we refuse to ask, we deny others the chance to show up. We deny ourselves a chance to receive, and we reinforce that illusion that we have to do everything on our own. This is not about entitlement, it's about honesty. Asking clearly, asking respectfully, asking without expectation, and accepting whatever answer comes back without attaching it to your identity. That's maturity. And once you start asking, something shifts internally. You stop seeing a world as a closed system. You stop assuming scarcity. You start noticing how much support actually exists around you. You also become more generous yourself because you remember what it feels like to be on the other side of the ask. This is not just about big asks either. This is about small ones: clarification, feedback, time, space, support, boundaries. Asking your partner for what you need instead of resenting them for not reading your mind. Asking your team for help instead of carrying the weight alone. Asking yourself what you actually want instead of defaulting to what feels safe. Most of us are not blocked by lack of ability, we're blocked by lack of permission. And asking is one of the simplest ways of giving yourself that permission. You don't need to justify your needs. You don't need to minimize them. You don't need to apologize for them. You just need to ask. And when you get a no, you learn and you adjust. You ask again somewhere else. You keep going, because the only guaranteed way to receive nothing is to never ask for anything. So if you take anything from this, let it be this: drop the ego. Drop the story that makes you feel weak. Drop the fear that you'll be judged for wanting more. The people who move through life with more ease are not untouched by rejection. They just feel less controlled by it. They understand that every ask is a vote of possibility, and that is worth the discomfort. If you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. It helps me, it helps the channel, and it helps people like us find the content that really matters. And as always, I'd love to remind you that you matter too. Don't forget that.